Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to set YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, or pretty much any website onto your Discord status like this. So as you can see, it says playing YouTube, and if you look over here it says I'm watching YouTube, I'm browsing, and it shows how long I've done it for. And if I actually head over to YouTube and click on a video, then you can see I'm watching the video. Just download that. I've already downloaded it, and then for the extension you have to
Makes us feel so exhausting, and the villain, who I'll talk more about in spoilers, is painfully boring. Easily one of the blandest villains I've seen in a long time. They even rely on a certain villain trope that I often find offensive in other blockbuster-style movies, but it's executed so dully here that I can't even get too mad about it. Which is so disappointing because I really like the idea of one-off lower-budget Star Trek streaming movies. We've actually seen similar potential for this before with the Short Trek series, which I mostly enjoyed, especially the more experimental entries like The Trouble with Edward, The Girl Who Made the Stars, and Children of Mars that broke away from the initial batch of episodes that felt like they were just setting up Star Trek Discovery's second season. Like, they actually really experimented with tone a lot in those, and that format proved to audiences, and likely also probably the execs, that projects like Lower Decks, Prodigy, and Strange New Worlds, some of the best recent Trek series, could work. Even Star Trek Picard started as a concept for a short Trek, though I think we can forgive it for giving us that. But I think an anthology-style Trek format, be it shorts or movies, is a really excellent and kind of needed way to experiment with the franchise and keep it fresh, which is why this movie is disappointing, because it should have been a chance to take a wild swing with the franchise. I have a lot of respect for Olatunde Osunsami, who directed this movie. He's been a producer on Star Trek Discovery for most of its run, and from what I've heard from folks that I know who work on the series, and also from following Trek productions generally, he's been a major force behind the series' commitment to diversity and authenticity, something that is core to what Star Trek is to me. And I appreciated that Discovery itself took tangible steps to authentically depict cultures and marginalized communities, from hiring queer actors and people of color to enabling the art departments like costuming to research and create culturally rich designs. That authenticity is what made Discovery kind of stand out even from its contemporary Trek series. But sadly, for the most part, none of that richness that Osunsami brought to Discovery really comes through in Section 31. I mean, for example, as my cosplayer Trekkie friend Spotted Giraffe pointed out to me, the movie uses a lot of off-the-rack public fashion pieces to create a gritty, grungy vibe rather than having the costumes be actually designed, and it makes the world feel a little less unique. It robs the movie of any sense of cultural specificity and makes it kind of look like every other low-budget, gritty sci-fi movie out there. And it needs to be said, I'm also not a fan of the cinematography either on this thing. I don't know if this is a problem with Osunsami as a director, it's something that I've noticed in his work before, or if it's just a problem of this era of Trek's filmmaking, but nothing in this movie feels clear or given proper weight by the camera. I mean, for example, when Osunsami directed the Discovery Season 5 premiere, I was frustrated by how unclear the action was during a chase sequence, even during what should have been the most epic moment of that sequence, where we have two starships dropping down almost into a planet itself. There was no sense of spatial relationships or scale. None of it was shot with the same impact as, say, the Enterprise D crashing in Star Trek Generations. Instead, it just felt weightless. And here in this movie, we kind of have the same issue. I mean, during an action sequence, the main villain's big introduction shot is just this generic medium shot. Like, there's no menace, no weight behind him, nothing to make this moment feel impactful like it should. And the movie also leans heavily into the constant moving shots that modern Star Trek uses to mimic the kinetic energy of the J.J. Abrams films, and that approach can work. I actually really like that it gives Trek a distinct visual flair that helps it stand out in this era of streaming TV. And say what you will about the Kelvin films, I personally think Star Trek 2009 and especially Beyond rank on the upper end of Star Trek movies, but even if you don't like their visual style, I personally think they genuinely had some unique and intentional shot composition. But here in Section 31, the visuals feel unmotivated, with very few moments standing out. And in an episodic streaming TV series context, I can forgive a little bit of that, but as a movie, which this is sold as, this cinematography just does not hold up, even against other Star Trek films, including the Abrams ones that it's clearly trying to emulate. The whole movie just seems uninterested in using the film medium to its fullest, even in the most basic of ways. And again, I have to grade this as a movie, even understanding that it's a lower budget streaming movie versus a TV series. Like, that's the standard I kind of have to put it up against. The same even goes for the set design and locations. So much of this movie relies on the volume walls Trek and even Star Wars have been using a lot lately, and while those can work in small doses, I don't hate them outright. Here they just add to the generic empty feel, with so many locations looking like yet another big, wide open circular space. Like, seriously, look for this in Star Wars and Star Trek shows and you realize how often there are scenes just set in wide open expanses that feel very empty, and also sets that feel very circular. It's all because they're on the volume. And as a result, it all blends together visually in this film, leaving no real sense of place or personality. There's even one location they use multiple times in this movie, a barren junkyard where characters inexplicably go to just stand around and have meetings. And for some reason, and this just made me laugh every single time, there are just random streams of fire just spouting from objects in the background. It's like the movie trying to trick me into thinking these bland plot exposition scenes are interesting by throwing in like random fire effects. I could not get over it. It was honest to God hilarious. Speaking of cuts, this movie has an editing style where it constantly zooms in all the time, and it's really disorientating and looks cheap. Like they were trying to superficially add energy to scenes in post-production. Speaking of plot though, Section 31 originally started off as a series pitch spinning off from Star Trek Discovery, and it was set up in Season 3 when Georgiou left the show after she had already been in Section 31 back in Season 2. But despite having started development all the way back in 2019, it languished in development hell for years. And my personal conspiracy theory is that this show was actually completely dead, was not going to happen at all, until Michelle Yeoh won an Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Paramount saw an opportunity to capitalize on her newfound spotlight. And I suspect they greenlit this as a movie just to test the waters to see if anyone's interested in a potential series, especially given how much Osun Sami, the cast, and a specific moment at the end of the film, which I won't spoil just yet, are clearly pushing for this to become a show. But for me, what kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth from this switching from a series to a movie is the fact that the pitch's original creators, Bo Yoon Kim and Erica Lipholt, two women, one of whom is a woman of color, were pushed off the project and replaced by Craig Sweeney, who wrote the film. And nothing against Sweeney, but it really kind of sucks to see two creators get pushed off their own project, also kind of quietly so, like no one in the Trek fandom is talking about that. And on top of that, Star Trek is a franchise built on inclusion and diversity, and yet only one of its aired modern series, Discovery, which is now canceled, wasn't showrun by a cis straight white dude. And again, I say this as someone who genuinely adores a lot of those showrunners. Mike McMahon in particular has been incredibly kind to me personally, so I'm not like knocking any of them. I think they're all great writers. But I personally really want to see more perspectives get the chance to run a Star Trek show. It's something I think is necessary not just for Star Trek, but really needed right now given the current political climate in the United States that we're in, as well as just the general state of Hollywood at the moment. And it just makes that all the more frustrating to see these women get replaced on their own project pitch. At least thank heavens that Tawny Newsome is currently working on a series and Noga Landau is heading the Starfleet Academy series. So at least that's nice to see for Star Trek going forward. But all that being said, it's also painfully apparent that this movie was stitched together from what was meant to be an episodic TV series. The 3 acts of the film do feel like separate episodes of a TV show, likely part of what was pitched as a season-long arc or the opening story of the series, and the film never really escapes that obvious structure. The film also crams in so much plot that it ends up drowning in exposition. I didn't time this out, but I would honestly take a bet that more than half the runtime of this movie is just characters standing around in a circle explaining the plot. They get in a circle, explain what the next generic action sequence is going to be, they do said sequence, and then we cut back to another exposition scene to set up the next sequence. It's a really repetitive cycle that never gives the story room to breathe. And it's all just a shame because there's real potential here to flesh out the character of Georgiou in meaningful ways, especially by delving deeper into her past as a fascist dictator and examining how much or how little she's changed since her introduction in Discovery. Yo was genuinely one of the best parts of Discovery's early seasons, and you could really feel her absence when she left. And I don't mean that as like a backhanded compliment. I'm actually pretty positive about those seasons overall, even with their many issues. I will at least acknowledge that I get why some people would feel conflicted about her being the central character of a Star Trek story. I mean, Mirror Universe Georgiou is introduced in Discovery right after just mass murdering a radical group resisting her fascist empire, and in her second episode, she's literally eating a Mirror Universe Saru, one of Discovery's most endearing characters.
Have my ganglia.
Her arc on the show, however, which sees her slowly becoming a better person through her interactions with Starfleet, is, to me, a very Trek story. But it also felt at times that it was carried more by Michelle Yeoh's incredible performance, more than the writing of the show itself, which didn't fully reckon with Georgiou's implied totalitarian deeds. So that's why I was really excited about this movie getting a chance to expand her character, and certainly the plot tries to do that, but instead of really delving deep into Georgiou's complicated past or character and how it might do, nobody's watching. The movie just gives us a watered-down villain who feels like a crowbarred in concept to have her reckon with her past in very superficial ways. All that being said, Michelle Yeoh is, as always, clearly having fun as Georgiou.
Starfleet.
I think
Where fun
I haven't been.
goes to die. It took you long enough to find me.
But unlike Discovery, where she had strong...
I don't think I've said it. I know I haven't said it because I haven't turned on the microphone. But, I'd like to make a new boundary. It's kind of cool that I can record these little things. And we might be able to look back on these someday, or maybe Maddie would like to see what I was doing, or she was in kindergarten. Oh boy. Kill the stream! My damn mouse. Probably should just turn on the monitors in here. I didn't want to. The fuck am I? Hey. Uh-oh. The ship fell. Check it. We'll see if we can do it from inside. From inside the building. Not too bad. Okay. Taxi. Don't use gravity. Silly goose. Up. Uh-oh. Where's it going? They're going to turn these things off. What's the deal? And then where did that bad boy go? What is this saying? To be fair, that code was not even reviewed. What? Oh no, this has nothing to do with me, I don't think. I don't even know. What you talking about? Hand? This one? Oh. It says, who? Right hand. Hand active state. What do you... What? These were working before, were they not? Ouch. What's the deal? What's the deal with airline food? Did I do anything to this yet? No. Just threw that fucking script on there. Alright, let's reload it. Do not save. Yesterday we were grabbing. Today our ship fell. Oh, it must have saved. We gotta... Well, how did we do this? How did we fix this before? What was the deal? Was it a restart? Maybe it was just a restart.
Strong characters and actors to bounce off of, here you can feel how hard she's just trying to inject personality into the proceedings.
I have a simpler idea.
The other characters around her are really forgettable. Quite literally, until I rewatched the movie a second time to write this review, I forgot some of them were there.
Their roles and personalities are constantly told to us, sometimes explicitly so,
They're heavy on artillery, low on IQ.
rather than actually have them show us who they are.
You have the bruiser dumb guy, the by-the-book stickler, and the gruff no-nonsense leader with a dark fan service-filled past. Instead, the movie tries to make the crew stand out by leaning a lot on their quirks during all the exposition, having them snipe and banter with each other to remind us what their roles are.
Zap suffers from what we call mecha dysmorphia.
And I may not know what that is, but I'm also not going to take that from you, Quaz, and personally, I'm offended.
But aside from a few exceptions, none of the cast managed to elevate these paint-by-numbers archetypes into something memorable. Sam Richardson is the only one matching Yo's energy. He somehow manages to make his character feel like a fully realized person, and his comedic timing occasionally gets a genuine laugh out of me, even with the bland dialogue and thin characterization that he's working with.
I could be intimidated by you right now. I mean, after all, you've murdered so many people. And you seem to be staring right into my soul.
I will say Sven Rygrock also deserves a little bit of a mention for his completely batshit performance of Fuzz.
I will kick your ass until you cannot form a solid mass of...
Where are my hands?
I am not dead.
Where are my hands?
Surprisingly, by the way, is one of the movie's more intriguing sci-fi concepts. I'm not going to spoil it here, but it's actually one of the very few genuinely unique ideas the film has to offer up the Trek universe. And it's just a shame that the rest of the movie's cast doesn't rise to either of their levels. But the big character I think most Trekkies are probably curious about is Casey Roll's Rachel Garrett, given that she's the most obvious way that the movie explores this specific era of Star Trek. As many Trekkies know, this character is destined to become the ill-fated captain of the Enterprise C from the classic Next Generation episode Yesterday's Enterprise, where she's given a lot of gravitas, but not a ton of screen time. So we had plenty of opportunity to flesh her out. But here, she just comes across as the stereotypical, I follow the rules, Starfleet officer with a stick up her ass.
And if I think we're putting Dadanau's life in danger by tinkering with that implant, I will unleash the full weight of Starfleet on this whole operation.
It's a very rote character, and she's never given anything more interesting to do or any depth beyond that. They had a real chance to make her unique, to give her a compelling arc that maybe explored who she is, or this time period of Star Trek, or even angling towards her future legacy, and they really just don't. She's just kind of here playing a stock character that I think you could have slotted any Starfleet type in.
Son of a bitch.
And what makes it all the worse is her role in the story. Starfleet actively assigns her to oversee the Section 31 team, which means that Starfleet has some oversight of Section 31. And that leans into the absolute worst aspects of the Section 31 show concept that I have always hated. When Section 31 as a concept was introduced in the later seasons of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, its entire purpose as a storytelling device was to reject the idea that such an organization had any place in a Star Trek future. It was portrayed as a clandestine group that was tasked with doing whatever it took, no matter how morally reprehensible, to protect the Federation's interests, including interfering in other nations' affairs. Essentially, it was the Federation's version of the CIA. The storyline of Dr. Bashir clashing with Section 31 agent Sloan was about rejecting that ideology. Sloan essentially was arguing that Bashir's idealism, and by extension the Federation's, was only possible because Section 31 protected his naive innocence.
Federation needs men like you, Doctor. Men of conscience, men of principle. Men who can sleep at night. You're also the reason Section 31 exists. Someone has to protect men like you from a universe that doesn't share your sense of right and wrong.
While Bashir argued, in some of my favorite episodes of the series, the exact opposite. That idealism isn't naive, that you can actually fight for it and prove it out.
I don't like it, but I've spent the last year and a half of my life ordering young men and young women to die. I like that even less.
That's a glib answer. And a cheap glib. To avoid the fact that you've trampled on the very thing that those young men and women are out there dying to protect.
And it's what makes the Federation's ideals worth defending, even when its own institutions fail to, which is a core theme of Deep Space Nine as a whole. After Deep Space Nine, Section 31 only popped up really briefly in a couple of movies and later shows, where it was clearly still shown to be an overtly bad thing. It also appeared, by the way, in some banger novels. Like, if you have not read these Section 31 books, they're all pretty much great. In fact, this Next Generation one is one of the first Trek books to make an on-screen character gay in the novels. Because, of course, I would know weird, queer, nerdy shit like that. However, modern Star Trek shows have used Section 31 much more liberally and pretty much flatly ignored its original critique. It often feels like Section 31 is neoliberal propaganda, arguing for the necessity of a CIA-style organization, the exact idea that Deep Space Nine was rejecting.
Nation building is never pretty. That is the unappetizing truth, and you know it.
Wow. I hate it.
It steadily got worse over time. In Discovery's first season, the ship's spore drive was heavily implied, but never directly stated, to be a covert Section 31 Black Ops project, approved and run by Starfleet. But that season, at the very least, never explicitly stated it, and at least it also made clear that that mission was led by a literal fascist who was manipulating his hopeful Starfleet crew, as well as Starfleet generally, into becoming a war machine under the guise of Starfleet ideals, so that he could get what he wanted.
And we must win the war. That's just the beginning.
But Season 2 went even further, officially naming Section 31 and reframing it for the first time as an authorized, well-known, apparently, arm of Starfleet.
Section 31 may not be the shining beacon of righteous conduct you want it to be. They are a critical intelligence division.
Rather than being a disavowed Black Ops group,
Starfleet sanctions what you're doing.
We don't submit reports or ask approval for specific operations, if that's what you mean. We are an autonomous department.
We even see Georgiou as a Section 31 agent infiltrate the Klingon Empire to back leaders friendly to the Federation's interests, essentially mirroring real-world CIA actions and coups in other countries. At least, and I mean the very least, Season 2 acknowledged that Section 31 was bad.
Section 31 works against our heroes for most of that season, and
the AI villain of the season was the result of Section 31's obsessive need for control, and characters like Captain Pike openly expressed disapproval of Section 31 itself. But here in this movie, there's not even a pretense of critique. Instead, the movie basically asks, what if CIA stuff was done by quirky weirdos? You know, just your found family of outcasts and marginalized people casually doing some extra-legal military ops, like we're wont to do, I guess. And I get, to be clear, that the Black Ops team of scrappy weirdos trying their best trope is a thing that I often typically enjoy in shows like The Boys or The Suicide Squad, but those teams are usually portrayed as mercenaries or outsiders, not a sanctioned government team, or at least the members of it are forced to be on the team. But here we have Rachel Garrett being an official Starfleet liaison to Section 31, ostensibly there to keep Section 31 in check, which kind of feels like it would defeat the purpose of Section 31 to begin with. And even worse, her character's role in the film is just to get huffy about, this isn't how Starfleet would do it.
Starfleet does not do assassination.
Before, like, inevitably coming around to their way of thinking by the end. It's the show kind of giving an explicit endorsement of the idea that the CIA is a necessary evil, that Section 31, and by extension, the CIA, are needed to keep America safe, rather than what it actually is in reality, an extension of American neo-colonialism. This framing outright downplays the agency's history of human rights abuses and covert operations, which have actively destabilized nations and suppressed progressive movements, and it doesn't help that the actors themselves seem to be leaning into this during promotion.
The simple truth of the matter is, the Federation can only exist if a Section 31 exists.
Yeah, baby.
Now, what we can do is we can take it from being a nefarious organization to humanizing it and actually showing the need for it.
Wow. I hate it.
And that completely undermines what Section 31 was created to critique. Deep Space Nine made it very clear the Federation can and should exist without a Section 31, because it goes against the whole point of the ideals of what the Federation, and by extension Star Trek itself, stands for. But this movie just abandons that nuance entirely, just turning Section 31 into a quirky, glorified arm of Starfleet. And ultimately, that's my problem with this movie. It doesn't feel like Star Trek to me. And I want to be very clear about what I mean by that, because it doesn't feel like Star Trek is a critique that gets thrown around a lot, and it can mean very different things to very different people, and it's also used in a lot of toxic ways, and I want to be clear, this is like what I like about Star Trek, not what anyone else has to like about Star Trek. But to me, the reason this movie doesn't feel like Star Trek to me is not because the movie is set outside of Starfleet. That was actually one of the things that was a strength of it for me. I have been rooting for Star Trek for a long time to break away from its Starfleet focus for a while. As much as I love my pajama-wearing nerds, there's more to the Trek universe to explore. You know, Trek has always had the potential for bold, weird ideas, from Gene Roddenberry's pitches for a Harry Mudd series and a Trek medical drama way back in the 60s, to the Klingon show that was proposed somewhere in the 90s, and it's why I'm really excited about Tawny Newsom's comedy show, and dream, personally, of one day advancing my own career enough to pitch my political thriller-style Trek series that I've had in my back pocket for a while. And we've even had glimpses of this in Picard and Prodigy, which both started outside of Starfleet, but ultimately kind of returned to it as they went along. But for me, Trek doesn't need Starfleet to work. What matters to me in Star Trek is its humanist ethos, depicting a future where humanity has focused and chosen to seek its better self by embracing self-determination, desire to connect with others, and finding delight in those that we see as different, both alien and human. And it asking us, watching the show, to reach for that goal today. And it's why I've been really, really critical of the conservative ethos that I've seen in recent Trek projects like Star Trek Picard Season 3 or very short Treks.
It is important we respect their customs, Bill.
Yeah, I know. But come on, Beverly. You go shake their hand then.
Even Strange New Worlds has had some biological essentialism and sociological predeterminism creep into its storytelling, which I've talked about in other video essays. And conversely, it's why I appreciate Star Trek Discovery, flaws and all, because it centers these themes. And the same goes for Lower Decks and Prodigy, the series that I think are the best Star Trek of the last decade, because they portray a future where society enables people to grow into their best selves, rather than dictating who they should be. But these are all Trek shows that have been canceled by them. And even in the darker Star Trek series like Deep Space Nine, which is the best Trek in my opinion, which explores how institutions like the Federation or Starfleet fail to live up to their ideals, the core ethos of Star Trek to me shines through because they focus on how people outside of Starfleet's elite on the Enterprise D or something still fight for those values within an imperfect system. That's what Star Trek is about for me, not a Starfleet aesthetic. This could have been an opportunity to build upon Deep Space Nine's conceit if the film had been willing to fully commit to showing Section 31 as bad. Like maybe show that Georgiou has grown from her fascist past and actually, while she gets recruited by the organization, she actually tries to take it down from the inside or divert it. And maybe even because of her history, she has complex feelings about it along the way, and maybe even thinks like, maybe I should actually try to keep Section 31 around, or reform it, and she learns that ultimately you can't do that. There's an arc here for her character using Section 31 that I would have really liked, but instead, it feels like the movie is trying to glorify and soften the organization. And all of this leads me to a few more significant issues that I have with the movie that I need to go into spoilers to talk about. Including, by the way, a couple positives. I don't fully hate the movie. There's a couple things here that I really like. So before we get into all of that, I will just say to those of you who are about to jump off, unless you're a completionist Trekkie like I am, there isn't anything in this movie here for you. It's utterly generic sci-fi that never takes advantage of even the aesthetic of Star Trek, and frankly, to me, is antithetical to the core of what I, at least, love about Star Trek. And it sucks to say that because I always want to support Star Trek projects, especially as we've been seeing a lot of projects that I've really enjoyed from Star Trek over the past few years get canceled. I never want to go in to hate on this franchise like certain other YouTubers might be trying to do, but I really have to be honest and say I think you should give this one a pass. Now we're in spoilers, so let's dive in.
I'm done. Take it.
The way you work it. I like 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 the way you work it.
Why are you not tracking my fucking hands, Jeffrey? Null reference. Object is not set to an instance of a reference. Blah, 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 blah. So frustrating. Works on this fucking one. Doesn't it? Don't you? Right away. Damn it. Fuck you. So frustrating. What did I do wrong here? Updated the package? Oh my god. No more. Christ. Fucking hell. Classic. Tokyo Funk. Take it. Shiggles. I better go to one of their standard example scenes and grab user examples. I don't. Using pass-through. Dude, don't tell me. I don't give a shit. Your guys' projects, you buttholes. Why can't I see my hands in this project? all this shit always fucked up, yo? Yesterday until I shut it down, it was fucking crazy. Get out of my shit, I'm so sick of you. Dude, that hand script is... it's still fucked up, you mental patience. Put in the asylum. God damn it. Now my brain's hurting. I'm gonna rip the shit out of this project and put it in this other one. 2 seconds here. Yep, just gotta update those. Just gotta update those. Just gotta update those. Update all these little things. Oh, look at that, the hand script changed. put pictures on those buttons. But will I be able to see my hands? Don't want me with my stuff on the man. Hot dog. I got nothing from him. Shoot, shoot. God damn. Device is tracking hands. Unity is not. Why? I just don't understand what's going on. Why are these things not working? What is the goddamn difference here? What's the difference between this scene and this scene? Why? Slide this bad boy over here. Back to this butthole. Double check our own build settings. I can sneeze. Graphics job. Target. how I had it for 2 minutes yesterday. Okay, I did. Wow. Okay, and then the hands and the open XR plugin, I guess. XR hands. Let's go. Maybe that's what it was. Reload. Shit, get out of here. Dead meat flying car. Till we get these hands back working. This XR hands are a good part. Guess we have an interaction toolkit too. Wait, X, open XR. I already got that. XR core utilities. Native devices. Weird thing to say. Did you hands? Might as well. Put it all in. Just because I did look an update, we just got to start a whole new project. Fine, fuck it, I do not care. Just, let's go. Let's just fucking do it. Okay? Okay? You were working fine before. What do I gotta do? Install everything all over again?